Welcome everyone to the G3X Podcast with episode 4 with our special guest Chava. We talked some amazing topics from entrepreneurship to her fitness journey, life as a trainer, and many more cool things. Hope you guys find a lot of value from this episode and get ready. Welcome everyone. Here we are at the G3X Podcast and we have a special guest here, Chava. This is episode 4 where it's all about God, Gym, Grind, Unfiltered. Super excited to have Chava here. She has an amazing story to tell when it comes to like fitness, entrepreneurship, and a lot of cool things we'll be discussing today. So hope you guys are excited just as much as we are. And Chava, thank you for being here. How are you feeling?
Feeling really good. Super excited to get into it.
Awesome. Definitely for sure. So to the audience who maybe is not fully aware of you and so forth, if you want to give, let's say, yourself a little bit of a introduction, where you're from, your occupation, what you do, and we take it from there.
Awesome. Yes. Like you said, my name is Chava. It's spelled with a CH. So yeah, everyone mispronounces it all the time, but it is pronounced Chava. C is silent. And I'm a native Hawaiian girl, originally from the island of Oahu. A long time ago, my parents moved us to the cold, landlocked state of Colorado. And yeah, it was crazy. It's like, what are a bunch of Hawaiians doing in Colorado? You know, it's totally a God thing. My parents just wanted to start something new for our family, a life where we were thriving and not just having to survive and following the will of God. And, you know, our life here has been so blessed. We've since expanded the family. I've gotten married. Some of my siblings are getting married and pursuing a career, my dream career here in Colorado. And right now I am currently working towards entrepreneurship in the weddings and events industry. But prior to that, I was a personal trainer for about, I'd say 2.5 years. So that was an exciting journey. That was my passion career specifically, and being able to follow and grow in that career was really awesome. Something definitely from the Lord, but he's since turned my trajectory towards entrepreneurship, and I'm excited to get into that too.
Awesome. I love that. No, there's a lot of exciting things to discuss with everything that you said. And actually starting like earlier, so how old were you from, let's say, Hawaii when you moved here to the States in like Colorado?
I was quite young. Yeah. My parents, they had grown up and lived on Oahu their entire lives. Like they rarely ever left the islands. So they knew nothing outside of Hawaii. So it was crazy. And then on top of that, Colorado, they had never been to Colorado ever. And on top of that, it was the landlocked state that got snow. And so, yeah, everyone's like, you guys are just insane. You know, did not understand it. And they're like, you know what? When the Lord tells you to go do something, it doesn't have to make sense. You just got to go do it. That was when I was 16 years old. We moved to Colorado Springs and we were there for about, I'd say like 5 years. Then we moved to California for a year and we hated it there. So we moved to more of like Denver metro area. And that's just where we've been until I got married. And now I'm back in the Springs.
Okay, nice. Wow. Now, I think that's super cool. Like, let's say for like the audience out there that I guess you could say that lead to the unknown. Now, what really made your parents like just that, in a sense, dramatic jump? I mean, I imagine Hawaii, tropics, sun, the beach. I've never been to Hawaii, but I've seen some of the pictures you posted the last time you were there. I'm like, oh my God, that's beautiful. That's not even close to Miami. Not been. It's a dream. One day, God willing, that I'll go there. So it's like from that, like, let's say paradise, you know, island, tropics, etc., to, like you said, landlocked, cold, snow. Like, were you guys scared? I mean, you are 6, but like, do you remember how you felt, or your parents, or like, you know, that just jumped to the unknown where a lot of people wouldn't take that risk. They'll be too scared. And, you know, so I want to like extract value out of that.
Absolutely. So actually my parents, they were saved later on in life. They weren't always believers. They're actually the first believers in both sides of the family. So on my dad's side, he comes from a very heavily Mormon family. Like my grandpa is the bishop there, the head bishop on the islands. And then my mom, she came from just like an agnostic, sort of like mixed Catholic family. So they did not grow up in the faith. They got saved actually at a harvest crusade that was happening on the islands. And it was like I think it was a year or maybe a few months after they got saved that they got married. But then a year after that, they had my brother, who was the first sibling. And then the rest of my siblings and us came after that, shortly after that. But I believe it was so them being new believers and actually hearing from the Lord for the first time. It was then that they actually, you know, had that relationship and starting to hear from him. And he was telling them to move, to kind of get out of where we were. And all they can equate that to is like, you think of like Joshua. They kept bringing up Joshua 1:8. That was their continued main theme verse for that big move. But it was like, we were living in a like very deep cultural like sync where a lot of Hawaiians, they believe in like gods of the island. They don't believe in like the one God. All of my family was that way. We had no other believers with us, and they wanted us kids to really be raised in the faith and to be raised with fellow believers and peers our age who are also, believers as well. So I think it was just something new. Like the Lord kept telling them, I want to start something new. Why Colorado? I literally have no idea. It was like a few months before we moved that my parents were like, Colorado just kept being brought up. And I don't even know why. Like some people were like, oh, you should go check out Colorado if you're thinking of moving. Like there are a lot of opportunities out there. And they're like, really? Like Colorado? And yeah, they reacted the same way. Like there's no ocean and it's cold and like it's dry and there's snow. And I really don't know why Colorado, like God kept bringing it up. And so I remember my parents left us kids for 2 days to go travel to Colorado and kind of like scope it out. And then when they came back, they're like, yep, we're moving to Colorado. And us kids didn't really understand everything that was going on. We were all pretty young, but I know we were just super excited. We were like, ooh, Colorado. I heard there's snow. We've never seen snow before. That's going to be fine. Didn't know it was also cold too, but just excited more than anything. It was hard leaving family because all of our family is back there. Like we had no family, no friends. My parents had no job and no house moving out here. It was literally like they owned a house and my dad had a job out in Hawaii. All of our family was there. We knew no one coming here, but the Lord kept saying, go. I want to start something new. So we moved over here, and the years following, it has truly shown what the Lord's plan was. If we had stayed in Hawaii, I believe we would have been deeply rooted in like the pop culture and just this idea that like there are multiple gods, we care more about the earth than we do about our Christian faith. So I think that the Lord definitely wanted to move us out to grow our faith. And I think that was the biggest point in moving us.
Good story, because like you said, like sometimes like a lot of us have experienced that where sometimes God asks you to do something or go somewhere and you're not sure, like, wait, why? That doesn't make any sense. Are you sure?
Exactly.
Like, no, I'm making that up. But, like how we say here at G3X Fitness, God, Jim Grind, put God first, and wherever he leads you, it might not make sense, but if God is taking you there, like, have the faith that it's going to work out in some way, even if at that point it makes no sense. So I really like that story because, hey, you guys took the leap of faith. And I've said it a lot in other podcasts. I've said it a lot in certain videos that I do, how you can't, and it's again, a quote from Steve Jobs, but like, you can't connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect them looking back, where maybe at that point it didn't make any sense, but now you reflect back and you're like, oh, if that hadn't had happened, it wouldn't have led me to where I'm at now. So it's like, it's all connected. So that's so cool. Now, fast forward then, okay, you guys move, of course, you're going through school, etc. What then eventually led you to transition into, let's say, the fitness, and then, as you mentioned, personal trainer, and what evolved to that? And so, like, if you're like a gym rat now and so forth.
Right. So we were always homeschooled. My mom homeschooled us. So that was another big reason of the move. My parents wanted to homeschool us and actually teach us themselves. They didn't want us to grow up in the school education system. And I'm very thankful for that. And when I look at the current school system and think of what all these kids have to go through in it, it's just heartbreaking, honestly. But being homeschooled really did steer my passion because we were able to not just focus on our schoolwork, but then also focus on some of our passions as well. So my mom was like, pick any of these passions, pick any of these topics that, you would like to pursue, that you would like to get into. And she was always trying to push us kids to think about the future. Like, you're not always going to be staying here. You're going to go get jobs, and no, you're not going to go work at like McDonald's, which there's no fault in working at McDonald's, but she's like, I want you to start thinking about your career, not just a job. So homeschooling, she would just push us to go and learn about our passion. And how that passion all stemmed, it was actually in California. And that was probably the biggest takeaway that I would be thankful to California for. Cause we moved out there thinking it'd be more like Hawaii. It's not. It's a desert. It's not an island. But my dad worked as a DoD civilian on the Coronado base. So he worked on the aircraft carriers. So whenever we'd want to go to the beaches, you know how California beaches are just terribly crowded, like terribly. Every square inch of sand is like a human being. So hated the crowds, but we would go, since he had access to the base, we would go to the beaches on base. And it was one day there in particular, while we were on the beach, that there were a few soldiers who were actually like kind of doing their drills on the beach. Like I'd say it was like 3 men and 2 of them were women. And it was the first time I actually realized that women have muscles too. Like I was 12-year-old at the time, but they were doing like tons of crazy calisthenics stuff. They were doing like jumping push-ups. They were sprinting across the beach. And I was just like, what? Like stars in my eyes inspired. I was like, I didn't know like women could do that too. You know, I was just over the moon. And that day when I got home, I started asking my mom about fitness and like exercise. And she was like, oh yeah, your dad at the gym all the time. You know, I've strength trained a lot. And it's like, what? It's so cool. So anyway, old Jillian Michaels workout DVDs. I don't know if you know who Jillian Michaels is. You know, Beachbody, like the old Beachbody, like exercise programs.
Okay, yeah, familiar with it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like back when all of your exercise and fitness stuff was like on DVDs,
Oh,
and it's
snap.
like being like, let's go, ladies, let's work it.
Okay.
It's kind of like that transition, but it started in
Snap.
California with all these celebrity trainers. And yeah, my mom had a bunch of this particular trainer lady's DVDs. And she's like, well, if you're interested, you can like start watching these and start getting into it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And I got hooked. Like I wanted to do pull-ups, push-ups at a very young age. I did so many workout DVDs and I eventually outgrew those. And I was like, Mom, I want to go and like to the library and rent out the entire fitness section of DVDs in the library. And I literally tried pretty much every single workout routine on those DVDs from the library. And that's where my passion grew. And I just continued to want to learn more, continue to want to apply my body. I love moving my body. We were always a very athletic and sporty family. So it wasn't like moving our bodies was new, but exercise was something new. And I just fell in love like immediately. And then I told my mom, like, you know what? I think I'd like to do this for a long time. I just don't know if this is like a professional thing. And she's like, oh no, hon, you can get paid training people. And that blew my mind. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm doing. That's my career. I was like, people get paid to do this? That's even better. So it was at 15 that I learned that. And then I found out you had to be 18 to get a certification. I was like, no, let's start now. But at least, you know, I figured out at a young age what I wanted to do. So again, it was just my resources were the library and the search engine. And I rented out every single book in my library about fitness. I read all of them. I could tell you I've done pretty much every single workout under the sun, you know, and just craziness. I was obsessed. I would work out 3 times a day in our garage in our home gym. And then their Planet Fitness opened up down the road. And I was like, Mom and Dad, I have to go. I need a gym membership. So as soon as it opened, they got me a gym membership on my birthday and we went there and it was just a whole new playing field. But when I graduated high school at 17 and still too young to get into like, you know, to get a certification. But I used the next year, as soon as I turned 18, I used my graduation money to buy my first few certifications. I did it through ACE. And yeah, I know, ACE, like, why didn't you do NASM? Well, you know, a $500 certification compared to $1,000 one. Keep in mind, I'm a high schooler who's using my graduation money. I went with the cheaper ones. So anyway, I bought my first few certifications. Six months later, I passed my certification test. And I'd say 2 months after I got my certification, I got a job working for a, kind of like a private franchise called the Exercise Coach. And it's where they particularly specialize in, strength-based training, eccentric overload training, utilizing smart technology though. So I got my first job as a personal trainer there. And then I worked for them for about like 2 years.
Wow. Okay, now that's an amazing story. Nice. So basically from young, and then you just like that passion never went away. Cause you know how sometimes like at a young age, we like get like we all get hyped. Oh yeah, I want to do this. And we maybe do it for 3 months, 6 months. You're like, yeah, never mind. But for you, it was like an actual, a passion that eventually basically turned into a lifestyle.
Exactly. You know, when all the kids are like, I want to be an astronaut. And it's like, yeah, they don't actually go on to become rocket scientists or anything like that. No, I'm glad I discovered it at such a young age. So that way I could fine tune that passion and be like, this is like, and have a well thought out plan. By 15, I'm like, I know I want to do this. And I kept telling my mom, and she's like, you're sure you want to do this? Like, you're going to devote your time to studying, and you're also going to devote your own money because my parents, they're like, yeah, I mean, unless we, us kids, my siblings and I, unless we were super like serious about what we wanted to get into in the future, my parents are like, yeah, I'm not going to go spend money on it. I'm not going to go spend money for you to go to college and drop out. And then now we're, you know, we have all this debt accumulated. Like, no, mom, this is what I want to do. And I will pay for it with my own money as well. So I had just saved up to try and buy those certifications. But I mean, it was totally a Lord thing. He had blessed the whole way through and helped me stay consistent the whole way through.
And you were like basically putting your money where your mouth is in a sense. Like, hey, I want to do this. And that's exactly what you ended up doing.
And I had to prove it to my parents too. Be like, yeah, I said I want to do this. And now here's the action. I am doing it, you know?
Nice, nice. And then let me say, so, okay, once you got started reading about like fitness, like you said, all those books and everything, as the more you started learning, how did you go about like creating and structuring, let's say, your splits, or like you had a trainer, or it's just like literally fully self-taught, or a mixture? You know, how did that go about as you started progressing more in your knowledge, experience?
I wanted so bad to have a trainer. I would ask my parents, I'm like, is there any way, you know, that we could get a trainer? They're like, trainers are just really expensive. You know, we weren't the most affluent family, so we just did not have all this extra money to throw towards a trainer. I would have loved that because everything that I learned, like, and my trainers, my teachers were just my books. And like I said, YouTube videos. Like, I would study their form and I would study my own. I would spend hours in front of a mirror trying to perfect my form, trying to perfect like the movement, you know, and really just trying to, it was kind of funny because at the time we always ate pretty healthy for your average family. We did not grow up eating cereals or like processed foods all the time. My mom just cooked us wholesome, healthy meals. But I remember at even 13 years old, I was telling my parents, like, eating like cream all the time, you know, we should, like, get these things are bringing home candy. And they're like, okay, you know, you're young, you're past it now, but okay. They were so gracious with me, but I was just a nut for all that stuff, just a complete nut. But so they were my trainers, was those DVDs, books, the videos, and I just had to teach myself from there. And it was funny because it's like how they say, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Like, I had already learned so much about fitness at a really young age too. And that's when I realized that fitness is not a one size fits all. It's so different down to like the individual limbs in a person, not even from person to person. It's so different, even compared to how your whole body functions. And that was just, I felt like no matter how many books or how many videos I could watch, I could never learn enough.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's so much. There's really like, and you said it's so different for each individual and everything. There's like general, of course, principles, but then it like varies for per person. Now, let me ask you, like, what I just found it interesting with the whole nutrition aspect, you know, did you ever get like super deep into like the whole like macros and all that? Or like, you know, because I know some people go head over heels, others like they kind of like wing it or so forth. Like, how are you on that regards?
Right. I did for a time. Like, it was during that whole nut season when I was just crazy about everything. I did go really deep into that. And I was watching everything I ate. I was asking mom and dad what our weekly budget was for groceries and if we could buy these certain things that like that I could add to the grocery list and be like, hey, so I was looking at this recipe, or I heard we should add more protein into our diet, you know, and my parents are so gracious. They're like, okay, yeah, sure. We'll do this recipe. We'll add a little more chicken or stuff like that. And then, you know, once I started working and actually had my own money, then I was going and buying a lot of my own stuff and meal prepping. But I was super big into that when I was learning everything. And I say throughout the years, it's definitely dwindled. I'm not terribly on top of it as much as I was, which is fine for the period, like the period and season of life that I'm going through. There was something to be said about being too strict and being too crazy with fitness and not allowing for anything for you to like have a balance and actually enjoy your life. Like it's okay to go out with some friends and have some ice cream, like you don't need to be so crazy about that. And I was definitely getting to that spot, even in my teens. I'm like, yeah, no, we're just gonna like everything's gonna be made at home. Like we can't go to that outing. That's gym time, and I'm like, my parents like, you're so young. You need to go live your life.
Yeah, that's true. No, I like how you mentioned that's fair. Because same with me, like, I'm pretty sure we've both seen that meme on social where it's like, hey, I'm at a point where people know I live, but at the same time, they know I won't say no to a donut or something. I don't know if you ever seen like that
Right.
funny meme. So yeah, no, I agree.
Exactly.
Because I found myself in a certain point to like maybe going a little bit too extreme, but it's like, hey, you know what? I mean, if let's say you're competing like bodybuilding and so forth, yeah, I mean, there's 100%, there's like a level of discipline that you kind of have to be to that extreme. And that's respectable. 100%. I mean, you're going to
Exactly.
compete. I mean, hell, those people look amazing when for all that discipline. So absolutely. But if it's more like you just want to be fit, you want to look good and take care of yourself, yeah, like you said, every so often, it's not the end of the world. Enjoy life at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people can agree to that 100% for sure.
Exactly.
Connecting with that in sense, I'm just curious, let's say, again, through your fitness journey, then what would you say, especially starting at a young age, right? Because a lot of us, some of us start around like in those teens, other of us start maybe later on. But let's say, what would you say in that period where let's say maybe your biggest, if it could be called either like, let's say challenges or misconceptions in fitness, maybe that, like you said, maybe being too obsessed and like, okay, or anything else that you're like, "Ooh, if I had known this earlier, it would have saved me a lot of time in, let's say, this kind of training or that exercise or whatever, anything of that sort.
Absolutely. Like I said, during my nut season, I decided to go and try everything. And I realized how much time I wasted on like, when I say everything, it wasn't just like the good stuff. It was like fad diets. It was fad workout trends. It was things that just like, oh, because a celebrity endorses it, like everyone does it. And so much time wasted. Like I said, it's the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But also at the same time, the more you know, the more you realize how simple true exercise and true health and fitness is. It's like how your mom would always say, eat healthy and move. It's really like if you're looking for something specific, like physique training or power training, strength training, there are those programs for that. But when it comes to just general health and wellness, there really is no secret sauce except eat healthy and move, and I wasted so much time being like, well, this program, like, I feel like it affected my body a little bit better. I feel like I got more like toning on this one, or like, I feel like I got stronger with this one. I should have stuck to strength training first and foremost, because strength training, if there's any training that is a one size fits all, it's going to be strength training. It's going to be lifting weights, and I wish I had focused on that more than like my time on like rebound fitness, Pilates is great, so I couldn't really say Pilates, but like TRX, all that sort of thing, like I would incorporate those into my workouts. And I think that there are benefits to all of those different methodologies. But in the end, I should have really just focused on my strength training. But one of the biggest challenges, especially starting so young, would definitely have been my age gap. So whereas when a lot of people will discover fitness at like 16, 18, young 20s, the world is a little bit more open to you than when you start at 12 years old, and then there are a ton of people out there that are like, oh, kids shouldn't be in the gym like that young, or they shouldn't be lifting weights that young, or they shouldn't be exercising that young. Most of that myths, first of all, you should start them, like, don't go too crazy. Like, no, 6 years old, they don't need to be lifting weights. You know what I'm saying? But once they hit those teens and early teens as well, start teaching them the value of a healthy lifestyle. Start getting them to move their body in an exercise and fitness way. Start getting them to think about the foods that they're eating and putting in their body. Because what you're doing is you're building a healthy lifestyle for them far into the future. And they will take that with them when they become adults. Because you're not always going to be around to feed them. You're not always going to be around to tell them they got to go work out. They got to go do that on their own when they become adults. If you teach them that value when they're young, they're going to go ahead and they're going to take that with them all the way to when they become adults. But it was hard when I was trying to learn things by myself as a young kid, and I didn't have like all the resources and knowledge to do it. I didn't have access to a gym. We did not have access to trainers. I couldn't access the really big informational material from certification courses because the age limit is 18 years old. So it was hard to figure out how to navigate that all at a really young age and kind of by myself as well. The rest of my family wasn't big into studying that stuff at the time as much as I was.
So, yeah, no, for me, I remember when I was, what kind of got me into it, was actually a friend of mine from church. He was like, hey, you should start lifting some weights. We were like, what, like 13, 14 around. I'm like, I have really never thought about it. I was always like a super, super skinny kid. If I was to show you pictures of like when I was like 12, 13, like super skinny, super slim. And that was something like always deep inside of me, like, as a guy, oh yeah, looking big and muscles, you see like those like Popeyes and those like cartoons back in the day. So kind of like, oh damn, how would it look to look big like that? But I just never got into it until he mentioned to me, like, hey, you know what? You're right. And so then my dad had a couple of dumbbells at home. So then my friend, his name was Brian, I don't even know where he is now, it's just that point in time in church. And then, everyone goes different ways, such as life. So, but anyways, he showed me some basic stuff, like some like little like basic exercise with like, hey, you can do this one for your biceps. You could do this one for, let's say, your chest, your tricep. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I was like at home, kind of like doing them a little bit, nothing crazy. So I was like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, I worked out. Like, oh, I worked out. And then eventually, also, then I remember at some point in my life, like my dad had a gym membership. So then I would kind of go with him. But he really wouldn't show me. Because the same thing is, hey, be careful, like not to get hurt or anything. So I would just like stick to the treadmill and I'll kind of just stay there at the treadmill.
Right.
And then it was really more with my uncle. I don't know how, but my uncle had like a membership that allowed to bring in guests. He went to back like the LA Fitness. And so then that's where I kind of started working out with him. And then like I would go with him basically like every day. And so then that's where I started learning a lot of the different exercises, like let's say squats and like, different like lunges, and then like there's certain like dumbbell exercise for your chest, your shoulders, your calves, abs, like all these different exercises. I didn't know the names of them. I'm like, okay, this does this. I'm like, okay, cool. This I didn't even like lat pull down. I didn't even know none of that. Which is like, okay, this one's for your back. Okay, cool. So if I need to do back, I'll do this exercise. Or okay, this is for your legs. I'll do that one for your legs. Okay. That's about it, right? But I didn't know anything about like let's say, that hypertrophy training. Now that like there's a lot more information now, like we're like, trying to get as close to failure or, protein goals. I didn't know anything about it. It was like weights. And I was like, hey, as long as I lift weights, I'll grow muscle, right? But not knowing anything about food, nutrition, nothing. And then, okay, that was a period back when I was still like in high school. That time when I was going with my uncle, even younger, like middle school to high school. Then from there, started college. And so those 4 years, they had a gym. And honestly, I was sticking to those same exercises that I had learned from my uncle back then in college, right? I really never got myself to like learn more. I just stuck to that. And it was getting kind of repetitive, but I just stuck to that. Like, and then it wasn't until like maybe, then like a year and a half ago, which I've shared my story here like about G3X, that then I'm like, you know what? I really want to get serious with bulking. And then that's when I hired a trainer that I had met in college who was a personal trainer. Started reading a lot more about macros and bulking and, training to failure, and then really getting serious. And he helped me set up a program. And then from there, where I'm at now, basically. So I was like, so I could really say it was really my uncle who really got me started. And then I just kind of progressed from there. If it wasn't for my uncle, I mean, honestly, I don't know to this day what would have like sparked it. But it all happens for a reason ultimately. So it's been pretty cool there. Yeah, so like he showed me so many different things, and then I'll sometimes show him pictures. Hey, uncle, remember like years ago, like he's like, yeah, man, no, you gotta like way bigger. Like that's so cool, So it's like, hey, you got me started. So it's pretty cool on that,
That's really great. That's awesome. I know. I owe it to my mom for being like, yeah, hon, you can do it. And I was like, but yeah, it's funny. My family has always been, I'd say a lot of my focus for my early training was purely like, aesthetic. Because like you said, I was always like a skinny kid. I didn't really have extra weight to lose, but honestly, I liked the aesthetic. But then when I started getting into more of like performance based training and like skill and stuff like that, I was like, whoa, I want to move my body. Like when I look at athletes and how they sprint, like their speed, or like, vaulters and how high they can jump, I was like, I would really like to have some of those skills too. I know my training is going to lack because I don't have the knowledge of sport specific training. And then in these specific sports field. So I'm like, I still want to like move as close to that as I can. I'm young. There's no excuse why I can't move like that. So I actually really found the training that I love when I started doing calisthenics. And calisthenics was fairly new at the time. So I'd say this was probably like 20, like 2015, maybe 2016, when I was starting to like learn more about it. But there wasn't a lot of information out there about it. And people who had mainly like dove into and pioneered in calisthenics were like prior gymnasts and stuff. And I was like, well, I've never taken gymnastics. I don't know like any flips or anything or cheer, or I don't know how to move my body like that or how to train for that. So that was really difficult learning how to basically master the strength of your own body, because it's all body weight. It's all body weight. Learning how to master manipulating and moving your own body weight. And man, whenever people think of body weight exercises compared to lifting, they're like, oh yeah, like body weight is for babies. You just need to try calisthenics. I'm like, I'm sorry. Can you do like a full sit pull up with like throwing a muscle up in there and then do a handstand at the very top? Like, I don't think so. But I had so much fun learning that. And it's funny because from my passion, that kind of sparked the interest in my family. Like I said, we were all health focused, but then they were like, oh yeah, I actually like really like going to the gym and like eating this way. And they loved learning the new exercises too. All the stuff that I learned in my training, my sisters in particular loved hearing about it. So I'm one of 4 kids. I have an older brother, then it's me, and then I have 2 younger sisters. And it's funny because like my dad, he liked going to the gym before, he had kids when he was younger. He'd go to his high school gym all the time. But it's like, he didn't give birth to a bunch of gym bros. He gave birth to a bunch of gym girls. So brother actually wasn't very interested in going to the gym out of all of us. He did not like it. It was me and my 3 sisters. We were like this. They were my gym buddies for literal years, and we loved it. And that was probably the biggest support group that I had that kind of helped me push through and like be like, I want to continue reading it. I continue to have this passion and spark for it. My sisters helped a lot with that because they'd always be like, hey, Lil, what did you learn? Like, what else are you going to learn? Teach me what you've learned. And I love just teaching them what I had to learn and then bringing them along with me. And sometimes they were my little lab rats. I'd be like, hey, try this out for me. Try this out for me. Your form sucks. Like, correct this, Man, my family's just the best with it. But we all went to the same gym ever since it opened and for years. And it was the most fun. It was the highlight of my day, of my week. We'd learn everything together. And my whole family, we all got strong together. And that was really awesome. All of us got stronger. All of us got healthier. And it was easier to like cut out these junk foods in the house because everyone was on the same page. It was easier to all go to the gym because everyone was on the same page,
I know that's so cool. So yeah, in a sense, you were that, in a sense, influence with the rest of the family from what I'm seeing to a point. I love that. No, similar story actually, because like I said, when I got into the fitness, then eventually that led to, I got from when I graduated from college, it was during COVID 2020. And then, yeah, like when I graduated. And so I remember I was literally talking to a friend of mine that she was telling me like, I was like, dang, I can't go to the gym no more. It sucks. And it was towards the end of 2020 or 2021. I can't remember, but between that, like that conversation. And then she was like, just get a Planet. It's like the cheapest one there. And I'm like,
yeah,
you know what? You're so right. Like literally, like, I don't know what I was saying. Like, you know what? You're so right. Cause I was like, I always liked LA because of my uncle. And so I wanted to go LA, but at that point in time, I couldn't afford the monthly membership. And then she was like, just go to Planet. Like, you know what? And I promise you, but like that, literally that same day, I finished the phone call. I'm like, I'm gonna go to, and I literally went to Planet right there that same day, signed up. That was, I think, towards the end of, actually, no, it was towards the end of 2020. Yeah. And then from there, and this gym, that Planet that I went to, they had just opened. And I didn't even know that. They had opened like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I'm like, oh, so everything brand new machines, everything, So I signed up and I was there for like a good, like 3 years. And so during that time, I had the black card. So then initially my dad kind of started coming with me, like just to do some cardio. Then he got kind of busy with work. So then my mom started coming with me. So then my mom would literally be my like gym, bro. Like literally every day. I would go like 7 days a week. If I went 7 in the morning, she would go with me at 7 in the morning. If I would go like at 8 p.m., she would go with me at 8 p.m. And like she was like there, like ride or die type of stuff,
Awesome.
which was super cool. And she's like, I like it because it helps me stay active, with my like, just feel better. I'm like, yeah, mom, you got to do it. So she wouldn't do much weight sometimes, but she would use like show with the cardio machine, but at least it just kept her going.
Hmm.
From there, eventually, I then switched back to LA Fitness. And then I was telling my sister, my older sister, like, yo, come on, let's get back in the gym. Cause she would hit the gym heavy when she was in college. But once she stopped college, kind of dropped off and then never really got back into it. But I know she loved it. Like she was jacked and everything back in her like college days. And so I was like, yo, sister, like, come on, let's hop on. It took me a while to convince her, like maybe a good 3-4 months of like, hey, come on. And then finally she decided to sign up too. And then all three of us, me, my mom, and my sister were going to the gym. And then now recently, my dad decided to jump back in. So now it's all four of us going to the gym. So I'm the youngest. I have two older sisters. My oldest, for those who follow G3X Fitness, you guys see my sister in a lot of different posts out there and so forth. So a lot of you guys know who my sister is, my older sister. And there's another one, let's say the middle one, but she's older. She's still older than me. She's the one that yet I still haven't yet convinced, but I mean, she has her own way of staying active and so forth. So I'm like, but sometimes I just like to mess with her. I'm like, yo, let's go to the gym. She's like, nah, come on, I'm gonna drag you to the gym. I'm like, let's go. She's like, yeah, right. Just to like mess with it. But it's cool. Look, like, hey, it feels good. At least you're a good influence to the family. Like, hey, at least I help you to like kind of get active. And sometimes they tell me, hey, no, we look at you and we admire always how you're just nonstop consistent with it. And so we like going with you. Cause sometimes I'm like, hey, you guys can go, but like you guys have your memberships too. You guys can go. You guys don't have to depend on me. Cause I'm sometimes like super abrupt. Like sometimes, hey, what time you're going to the gym today? I'm like, I don't know yet. Like, cause sometimes I'm working on content or this and that. And then out of nowhere, I'm like, okay, I'm leaving right now. Like it's literally like super randomly. I'm like, leaving right now. And they're like, oh, we're not ready. I'm like, oh, well, too bad. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll wait for you. Hurry up. Go change. Hurry up. And so I need to work on that myself. But then they're like, no, we like going with you. Could you just, motivate us to just keep going and so forth. But it's cool. It's just cool being able to like influence your family. And then, you know, hey, I help them stay active. So, that's cool.
Exactly, exactly. And it's just so much fun too. Like already my family, they were my best friends. So I'm like, now your guys are like your best friends too.
Well,
And
gym buddies. Yeah, no, exactly.
yeah,
Now,
my
let me
gym
ask you,
buddies.
when it comes to, let's say, fitness, as let's say, before we transition to the next topic, if you had, let's say, like the top three suggestions or advice you would give to the audience out there, regardless if maybe they're in their initial starting phase of fitness or maybe intermediary, etc. What would you like from your personal experience from when you started young to, now working as a trainer, as you mentioned, and so forth? What would you say would be, let's say, your biggest advice for someone maybe wanting to get into fitness and that kind of aspect?
Definitely. Life is going to change. Don't expect to stay consistent all the time. Um, I think a lot of people start thinking like, so, okay, I have my consistent gym schedule. That means that I'm changing, and then when they start like life gets busy, that happens. We have busy season and then they stop getting as consistent. They're like, oh, only like 2 times this week. There's no change. Like, might as well stop altogether, which I've encountered those kind of people. I'm like, wait, you've been getting in 2 times this week? That's great. Do you know that's way better than like people who don't even get in the gym? But I think a lot of people let their inconsistencies keep them from getting to where they want to be. So it's like, as soon as they start getting inconsistent, they're like, okay, it's just bound to happen. And then they fall off the horse. Right. And it's like, no, you get back on there. Life happens. We're never going to be fully consistent, but you have to determine in your mind that your health is worth it. You need to continue to make the time to go. And then it's like, you'll get back on track. You'll get back on track. Your life, you can organize things later. You can organize your schedule, but don't let that stop you. And then another thing as well would be, focus on strength training. It doesn't matter what phase of life you're in. If you're young or if you're old, everyone needs to strength train. Like, if there are particular training methods that you like to do, like, or not even training methods, honestly, things that keep you moving, like, it's hard for me to go work out in a gym, but I really like going on hikes, doing that. But what I would say is that whether you like swimming or tennis or Pilates or whatever, keep strength training, because strength training isn't, a lot of people equate strength training to like what bodybuilders do or like power lifters. Like, no, strength training is for literally everybody, and everyone should be doing it, because as soon as you start losing your strength, your muscles start to atrophy, your skeletal muscles become, or your skeletal system, your bones and everything become weaker. You become more lethargic, your metabolism slows down, everything. Just your strength and your muscles affect all the health functions in your body. So if there's somewhere you want to start at strength training. If you are someone who's been exercising for a long time, keep strength training and keep pushing yourself. Don't get like complacent. Don't get comfortable. Continue to challenge yourself in strength training. And if you're like a pro, keep doing it. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum. Keep strength training. And then another thing too is just like I said, along with the seasons of life, there's also going to come seasons of eating, right? We all don't eat the greatest during the holidays. Try to eat as great as you can, but realize that it truly is what they say. Real fitness is like 20% of what happens in the gym, 80% of what happens in the kitchen. What you put in your body affects outwardly, and it also affects inwardly as well. So keep eating healthy, eat wholesome stuff. You put crap in your body, you're going to get crap out. You know what I'm saying? Eat healthy. The outsides of the stores, it'll take longer, but it's really not that difficult to cook healthy. Even if you need to be someone who orders like those pre-made healthier meals, do it. It's for your health. And any expense you put towards your health is an investment. Don't think of it as like, I spent so much money, it's a waste of money. No, you can spend so much money on your subscriptions, on Netflix, on your shopping sprees. Is your health really not that important to you? What is more valuable? You need to see the value in taking care of your health. So look at everything that you put into your health as an investment. It's worth it. You're going to thank yourself later.
No, I love what you said. And it's so true, especially on that aspect of, like you said, priority, right? There's always maybe some things that you maybe don't really need to spend on, that you could spend it somewhere else that it's going to give you better longevity too. And I also like how you mentioned that strength training. That's spot on, because at the same time, I feel people hear strength training and they automatically think it has to be heavy weight. And it doesn't. Like you said, every person is different. Like, every fitness is different for each person. Like, there's general principle, but then it also varies per individual, per body type. But let's say for like older citizens, of course, they're not going to be like, they're repping out 70, 80-pound dumbbells, but still, even with 5 or 10 or something, it still keeps them kind of active and still, like you said, maintaining their muscle, keeping them like that activity. So I love everything that you mentioned. Super spot on. Now, transitioning from that. So now, okay, you mentioned how you were there as a trainer. What then led you to the audience now into the entrepreneurship? Because this is super cool. I love what you're working on now. It's like super cool when I found out about it. So now, as you mentioned earlier, when you first started the podcast, how you starting the business in the events, wedding industry, what led you from, let's say, personal trainer to then start this? Tell the audience what it is that you're doing, so they're also aware of what you do. Shout out there to your business too. So give your story on that.
Thank you. Yeah. So, it's difficult being a trainer. I honestly thought I would be a trainer till like the day I died. But they do not, honestly, and even just in this economy as well, trainers do not get paid enough, I personally think, for what they do. It was crazy looking for jobs when I got out of my certification courses and seeing that like your trainers at Lifetime, at the time, I kid you not, I saw on Indeed, like getting paid $14 an hour. And I was like, this is, and then the requirements for it, it's like, you have to have a formal education, you have to be certified, or at least like have a degree in this. And I'm like, where does it pay off? Being a trainer is not easy. You have to show up being the pinnacle of health. So that means that you are the picture of what good health looks like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And it takes a toll. It does take a toll on you. It's hard. You can't have any bad days. People look to you to be that pinnacle, like I said, of fitness, of health. And so that would wear on me mentally a lot and emotionally too. Again, I found a pretty good job. It paid pretty well, the particular job that I had found as far as trainers go. But still, it's kind of hard to make like a full living off of it. A lot of the trainers that I had met in the arena, it was like they're working 2 other extra jobs, at least. Like, it was all of them that I met. It was either like a retirement job, or it was like just a pure passion job, or they were working multiple other jobs as well to make ends meet. And I was like, sustainably, it's not a good long-term thing to do unless I wanted to work multiple trainer jobs. And then another thing too is, some people are like, find what your passion is and then find a career in it. And yes, so that way you could love your job. Yes, I get that. But it's also a little bit different because I love just myself. I love training and I loved training people as well. It's a little hard to do it as a job, especially when you're in the industry and you start realizing how much of the fitness industry is led by money. And that was hard too, because there are so many people who can't afford certain services or whatnot. And like I said, it's an investment in yourself. So you do have to put some money aside to take care of your health. Unfortunately, in the US, it's not cheap to be healthy, but it's also like, when does this overcharging people stop? And when can we just like start educating people on how to take care of themselves? That was a little difficult because it was like, there are so many things, so many secrets and tips of the trade that we had to kind of keep to ourselves because it's like, well, they can't know everything. They have to keep coming back. I'm like, well, but what if they can't afford it? And like, I want them to take care of themselves. Fitness to me was like, I want to educate people so that way they never have to see me again. I understand how that's not the best business plan for companies, but that was where my heart was for it because it was my passion. It was my passion where it's like, everyone should be in better shape. Everyone should be healthy and it shouldn't have to rely on your wallet. But a lot of the health and wellness industry is all about vanity and money. So starting to see the cracks in that kind of made me lose the luster for being a professional trainer. A lot of that's what kind of took me away. And then plus I also got married and moved an hour away from where I used to train. So I just couldn't be at the place where I used to train physically anymore. I don't want an hour commute. I know some people can do it. I don't want that. So I stopped working there. And then entrepreneurship was always something that my family talked about. It was something we were always passionate about. We had started a few businesses together as a family. My mom was a professional photographer and she did weddings to graduations, proms. She did really good for herself, but she also homeschooled my siblings and I at the same time. So it got way too busy for her to be able to go to all these events, edit everything, and too stressful while also having to teach kids at home. So she stopped that for the sake of raising us kids. And it's one of the biggest sacrifices my mom has ever made. And then as a family, we started this lei making business, actually here in Colorado. It's very, very expensive to have leis imported from Hawaii or shipped from Hawaii. So my mom's like, well, why don't we just like make some? We don't have all the flour, like real flour leis. If there was more like ribbon and candy stuff. And my whole family got in on it. Like we all learned how to make the leis. We were doing super good with it, but it became too expensive to purchase and buy materials and then make bulk orders of like, okay, I want you to make like 100 leis for this upcoming graduation. And it's like, oh, there's only like 6 of us, technically 5, because my brother wouldn't make any leis. So the supply and the demand was just a little bit too much. So we had to stop that as well. But entrepreneurship ran deep in my family. I always wanted to own my own business. And so it just came to one day me being like, why not? Why not I start my own business? I love events. I have planned, coordinated and decorated a few events in the past for like my church and for some friends. And I just loved it. It was so much fun. And I was like, I'm pretty good at this. I think I could like, why not? Why shouldn't I be like a wedding planner or an event planner? And I remember like bouncing the ideas off of my parents, and my parents actually were the ones who told me about this photo booth technology. They're like, well, what, have you ever thought about photo booths? I'm like, no, I've never thought about why would I think about photo booths? And in my mind, I'm thinking like the big clunky, like stationary photo booth. I'm like, why on earth would I think about a photo booth? And they're like, no, not those. And so that's when I got introduced to mobile luxury photo booths. And that technology is only like 3 years old, if so. Like it's very, very recent. I had never heard of it. I was like, what is this? Normally things that people who have the money to afford it have at their parties. So obviously we're not very affluent people, been surrounded by very affluent people. I've never been to parties where it's like, oh yeah, we have this money to spend on this like luxury photo booth. And so like what my parents were like, you should start a business in this. Like not a lot of overhead. You don't ever have to resupply on a product. It's a service. You don't have to worry about getting product licensing or anything like that. You just have the booth and people pay you, they rent out your services and you go set it up and you're at an event. You love weddings and events. You're good at communicating with people. I think this is right up your alley. I'm like, but it's a luxury product. Like I don't know a thing about luxury. Our family, like we're a grassroots, like small town family. We don't know anything about luxury stuff, but the more I started to dive into it and study it, I was like, you know what? We could make some pretty good money from this, and it would be something that I personally, again, have a passion for. I love helping people celebrate the big events and big milestones in their lives. So I was like, okay, we'll look into it. And I've been married for about like a year and a half at this point. So obviously it was a big conversation with my husband as well. He already has a career that's been able to sustain both of us. And by the grace of God, we've been able to put some money away. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we just like pull the trigger on this? I'm done. We live very simply, right? The economy is not very good. I know most people, most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, right? And that was like something with us. I wanted to get a job. I wanted to work, but then I also didn't want to go back to the workforce and be like, you know what? Why don't we make our own hours? My husband is also very entrepreneurial minded. So that was really helpful because I was like, I would love to own our own business and not, preparing for the future. So we just finally purposed in our minds, like, this is valuable. Having financial freedom, having the time freedom, and being able to manage our own schedules and our own pay and stuff, and especially for a future family, like that is valuable to us. So that's where we really made the decision, you know what, let's do this thing. Let's start this business. And yeah, with the luxury photo booth. So our company is named Lumen, and we are a luxury photo booth company. You can rent out our services for any event that you want pictures and photos for. It's kind of cool because, like I said, it's really high-tech technology. So it's basically all the work that a professional photographer would do to capture like guest pictures at an event, all done in a matter of seconds. So it's professionally edited, professional like quality images and prints as well, custom prints, everything all right there. And you can get it shipped to you via text, email, or we can have it printed for you right then and there. And right now we're very much a baby business, very much. Like we only technically officially launched in December of last year. So we're still trying to network and grow our services and everything like that. We have a massive expo that's coming up in February. And then we have a few more events that are scheduled for this year so far. So I'm really excited about that. But again, just still trying to build everything. I'm trying to figure out like marketing, business analysis tools, like I don't know any of that stuff. Even like I told you, technology, we've tried doing calls, Zoom calls and stuff before, and I don't even know how like a Zoom link works. I'm like, I don't even know technology. And this is like a business that is all based off of like high tech technology. I don't know. I'm an old fish. I'm young, and everyone therefore thinks that I know how to work technology. I'm like, no, I don't know. I barely know how to like send these like Zoom link, phone call, text, email things. I don't know, but by the grace of God, he's been equipping me to learn more. And yeah, I'm just excited for what he has in store for the business in the future.
I love it. I love it. And guys, and for the audience hearing this, there's so many amazing things that Chava just mentioned in the story. And I hope you guys can really connect the dots in the sense that one, her passion for fitness, sometimes people are like, they're in something, whatever that may be. And for whatever reason, they are scared to make that jump into something different. Right. And for whatever reason, like you said, you kind of lost that luster for it because of the things you saw in the industry. And, how many people we've seen in like social or anything that are like, let's say, kind of fed up with their work but they just kind of like put up with it. So, kind of like wasting away their years, their time versus maybe they could do something else that they enjoy. So that's one of the things that I want the audience to be aware of how, she was willing to take, in a sense, that leap to transition to something completely new, something totally different, and go for it. That's one of the things I want you guys to like note there in the audience listening to it. Another thing that I also want to mention is the fact how you mentioned living simple, which I think that's super key because I feel at the same time also, and myself, when I quit my old job to start G3X Fitness, is something I learned there too. That a lot of times people, let's say a lot of times why people don't want to leave because maybe they're maybe X amount of money. And so by them starting this new venture, they know they're going to make less, but maybe enjoy it more. But yet they still want to have all these different like luxuries or lifestyle that, hey, for what? Maybe to impress people they don't even care about or like or something. We've all heard that cliche statement, but the reality is a lot of people do live that type of lifestyle. Whereas, hey, do something different. Okay, you'll make less money, but you might actually enjoy it more. And then be humble, live humble, give up certain subscriptions that you probably don't need, certain, move, let's say, move to a smaller house or whatever, maybe you don't need two cars. Maybe, a lot of hard decisions that sometimes people don't want to do, but maybe if they were willing to live more humbly, long-term wise, it could pay off because probably they enjoy it more. And I mean, who knows? I mean, like, for example, myself, from what I was making in my old job, so let's say starting G3X from scratch. I mean, you could like argue from a lot of money to like, let's say no money when it's for starting this business, not a single client or anything of that sort. And that's one thing I learned myself, being humble. There was a lot of like subscriptions or certain like, I was the type, I love going out every week, and not to like drink or anything, but just going out for food. I was a foodie. So I was like literally every week just trying a bunch of different food places to eat, like almost every week, 60, 70, 80 bucks, just spending it on food, this and that, that starts adding up. And so, giving that up, certain subscriptions that I didn't need. I had like 3, 4 different music services. Like, why do you need so many music services? Just direct to one, so many things. And I love how you mentioned that live simply because, sometimes you want to go somewhere different. You have to make certain sacrifices, but only God knows where that could lead you for something that could fulfill you or bring you more joy, more happiness, etc. So I really love how you mentioned those aspects. And then third, another thing that I want the audience to also notice from Chava's story is the fact that, of course, she had the support of her husband, which is always great, having the support of your loved one there, family too. But beyond that is that you weren't scared to take the leap into, let's say, something you're not as familiar with, but you'll learn it as you go. And I think that's the whole thing of entrepreneurship, that you get into something, you might know a little bit, but you don't know everything, and you just learn it as you go. And I think that's entrepreneurship. Myself with G3X, I know about fitness, working out. I mean, I'm not a professional or anything. I'm not a certified trainer. It's just from my own experience of what I've known about training and lifting weights and taking care of your body. And then starting this clothing brand, like learning a lot about the clothing industry, fabrics, styles, sizing, manufacturers, this and that. Didn't know anything about that, but you learn it as you go, right? You're never ready. You're never fully ready. So don't ever, a lot of people might wait to feel ready. You're never going to feel ready in the world of entrepreneurship. You just got to get out there and do it. And so I love how you mentioned all that because those are very valuable gems that I want people to pick up in your story that, you weren't scared to leave something that maybe you were like, let's say, comfortable or well off, however, something completely different, live humbly, right? If there are certain sacrifices having to be made for this venture, and then into something that you're not familiar with, but you'll figure it out. Just, and you said God gives you the wisdom to learn, put the right people to help you grow the business, etc. God first, God Jim grind, right? God first. And, the rest kind of adds up. So I love that. That's a powerful story, Chava, truly.
Thank you. Definitely. Yeah, I was the youngest trainer at the gym that I used to train at. I was 18 years old and all the other trainers were at least 30 years older than me, and our clientele base as well. We mainly marketed to an older demographic, but I did very well there. And I attribute that to all of my education that I took years before becoming an actual trainer. I was one of their best trainers. I got promoted to one of their lead trainers. And I was training new trainers who would come in and teaching them how we would do things and even just basic science, anatomy, and physiology. And eventually through the promoting, it came to where they gave me the responsibility of handling all their marketing. So actually like calls, sales, their whole sales system, I was actually in charge of the whole system and learned one of their brand new systems and taught my bosses, taught the owners, taught everyone how to use that system. But it's kind of cool because it's like, a career that I thought I would have been in for the rest of my life ended up being such a small part of, I'm sure, the story the Lord has for the rest of my life. But I see what he intended through it. Like all that I learned there, being a trainer there, literally running the whole gym by myself as an 18-year-old kid trainer. All of the things I learned there have helped me exponentially in trying to start this business. It's because of that I actually know some of these things going into starting this business. And it's like I said, we launched in December. It took months before actually officially launching. Like we bought the equipment in summer last year, but it took us months to try and figure out all the background stuff. And like you said, like learning about the fashion industry, textiles, like graphic design, you have to wear all the hats when you own a business, all the hats. You have to learn everything. And I'm like, man, You think it's so easy. It's just like, oh, sell the lemonade at the lemonade stand. I'm like, no, now you got to be the bookkeeper. You got to like know how to advertise yourself. You got to be your marketer. You got to be the scheduler. It's so much, but it's really cool because I feel like I have this very broad skill set now that I can take into many different areas of life. And on top of that, I'm like, but why give it, if I'm going to have all these skill sets, why give it to an employer? Why not just try my own thing? Why not create something for me? But yeah, it's just been this whole entrepreneurial journey, as you should say. The inspiration and motivation for it came from this heart of, you know what, Lord, I want to provide for my family. When I become a mother in the future, I want to homeschool my kids. And it was really difficult for my parents doing that on a really low income because homeschooling is not cheap. It's not like public school. Everything's free, You have to buy all the curriculum, and one curriculum textbook is like $100 for one kid. It's not cheap. It's not cheap to be a stay-at-home mom. It's not, and live off of one income. But I want to pour into this for my future family. It's not just for me. It's not just this selfish thing. I want my kids to have a life where, not that we were ever worried about finances at a young age, because, we weren't. My parents always provided for us, and they never really let us know their financial situation. But it's like, I want my kids to have a good life, right? I don't want to have to worry about finances. And I know things will rise up in the future. And who's to say that we will be less financially? And even if we are, I want to live a simple life. Like you were saying, I've always been one who's lived a simple life. And I've loved it. I feel like I've been able to enjoy my life more because it's simple. And I don't have all these exterior things that are drawing my attention away from the quality of life. But at the same time, it would be nice to be a little financially independent and not have to worry about these bills or taxes or whatever, So yeah.
No, definitely. No, it's true. And I love that, kind of in a sense, going deeper into that. It's not, let's say, for the love of the money. Like you were saying, like the industry you were in prior, and that will kind of, you're just doing it for something better in the future. For one, for your own family in the future, when you have kids, etc. And then at the same time, I would say you're even providing value back to your clients, right? Because they're at an event, whatever that event may be, and in a sense, creating special memories that they could look back years later, months later, like, oh, wow, remember this time, like smile, it's creating like eventful memories. So in a sense, giving value to your clients, which add value back to you. And that's something I like saying a lot. Hey, provide value to others. And value could be defined in different things, as entertainment, as experiences, as memories, as education, development. Value can be defined in so many aspects, but give value to people that will reflect back to you in some other way. Like you as a trainer, you're like, hey, why do we have to hold back? Like, give the people the knowledge, and then, sometimes, and I've seen that in multiple industries too, where, oh, those are secrets, so let's not tell. But it's like, at the end of the day, with the internet now, like you can really find out there's really no secrets per se. And so it's like, sometimes by you just being more authentic and truly helping others, people see that and they actually want to work with you more versus not, right? I also love how you mentioned that fact that your prior like experience with the whole like gym, running it, etc., how it helped you now as you're doing your own business. It's so cool how, let's say, God connects everything, because as I mentioned, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back, right? Like, who would have thought that would have led you to now? I could say the similar experience in my old job. It was, we worked, like, we had a lot of clients that the company focused on creating like logos, websites, social media marketing, all kinds of graphics and everything for clients, for like business owners, like, people starting their businesses, they needed a logo, they needed a website, they needed social media. And so that was my old job, where there was a team who would focus on creating the website, creating the logo, but I would work with the client, just getting the information of what they wanted. And so kind of seeing like the behind the scenes in a sense. I mean, I thought it was okay, just a job at that point. I hated talking on the phone and this and that. And fast forward now, 4 years later from then, and now, my own business, having to do my own website, all the graphics, the social media, myself speaking in the cameras, creating, so it's like same thing, just like you said, like, who would have thought? And it's just so cool. I always find this so cool, honestly. And I smile and laugh about it because, like, wow, God, it's like, you just really have everything like planned out. And it really just boils down to just following you, even if it doesn't make sense or you don't know how this is actually going to work out, but just have faith, God first. And that's it. I mean, it's just cool.
literally, and everything else like falls into place, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, man.
exactly. And it's like, I'm always someone who likes to look at life through the long run, you know? Like, do I want to travel now and have my fun now while I'm young? Yes, but I also want to set up my life and my family's lives in the future, you know? And like you were saying, I have always had this heart to help people, which feels a little difficult when you're in certain careers where you feel like you're taking advantage of people. I still love fitness. I'd love to get back into it in the future. And I see my current business, Lumen, as a way to get there. My husband, and this is kind of like my lore, part of my lore, but my husband and I, we would love in the future to open up some sort of gym or some sort of training where it is very educationally based. Anyone coming in, like just your random person who wants to learn about how they can take care of themselves, and then giving them the tools to be able to do it. Be like, yeah, here's the equipment. Here are meal plans. Like, here's the education. You take this and you run with it, you know, and I don't care if I don't ever see you again. Like, I just want to know that you are taking care of your health and that you are a healthier person because of it. Well, we'll see, you know, we'll see what the Lord has in store. But yeah, it feels kind of like a big theme for my life, your life, and like these stories that we've been talking about has been just like a leap of faith. Like, you never know what God's going to do. And it doesn't need to make sense. It's funny because some people are like, when they talk about the Lord's plans, and it's like, well, the Lord works in mysterious ways and we'll only really know what he's like working out like years into the future. I'm like, no, we may never know. We may never know why the Lord chooses to do something. Like, he never guarantees that he's going to tell us why or we're going to understand why. But I do know that it's always for a plan and purpose, and it's always for our good. And it's funny, even though the Lord doesn't have to show us why he does certain things, it's always a blessing to look back like at the things that you've gone through and be like, wow, Lord, you did have a plan for that. Like my job, thought I was going to be there forever. And then it's like, man, was that just a waste of time? You know, and yet I see how many lives I've touched. And now it's like, I started a business and I learned so much from that job, you know? So the Lord's just awesome how he works that way.
And it's crazy you said it because I sometimes said the same thing when I left. I'm like, damn, 3 years. I'm like, did I just waste 3 years? Like, so it's so crazy how you literally say that because I thought the same. Oh, I'm gonna be here for till I'm like 50, 40, whatever. You know, I thought the same exact thing. So it's just cool. And our stories are so similar. I love that. But no, how about
Yeah.
so as we wrap this up, beautiful story. Love everything you mentioned. If there was, let's say, one final takeaway that you can give to the audience here, one biggest piece of advice, etc., what would that be for the audience listening to it?
I'd say it would probably just be perseverance. Like, it doesn't matter if it's in the gym, in your career, in your personal life, life's going to get tough. And there are so many things in life that are going to interfere with your career, your personal life, and your fitness. But you have to persevere. You have to look down in the long run and be like, okay, I'm hunkering down now. I'm grinding now, you know, and it's for something better in the future. Tough times are going to come and they're going to go. Don't stay there. You know, you have to persevere. It's like anyone who first starts off in fitness. You're not going to reap the benefits from it, or you're not going to see the rewards from it immediately. But if you keep being persistent, you keep persevering, you're going to look back even like a few months, a few years, and you're like, wow, if I never pulled the trigger, if I never started, I would never be where I am now. You know, one of my favorite quotes that I heard a long time ago when I was probably like 8 years old, it was like in a kid's yearbook, but some high school senior quoted this, and it was like, you know, shoot for the moon because even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. And I know a lot of people have heard that one, but don't ever limit yourself. Don't ever think you can't achieve higher. Go for it. Go for it. If you don't make it, you don't make it. But I mean, look at you and I going into these careers as young people. And it's like, sure, we didn't stay there. You know, we didn't stay with those careers, and are our businesses like Walmart or something like that? No, but man, I think if I never pulled the trigger on these big things in my life, I would never be where I'm at now. And I know so much more now. I have a very broad skill set now. And even in my fitness, like if I never persevered, if I never saw the value of these things in the long term, I never would be at the place where I'm at now. You know, don't be afraid of change. Keep persevering and you will get there. Without a doubt, you will be better. You will be a better person than you were the day before. So probably just
Beautiful.
pretty cool.
Beautiful. No, I love it, Chava. Well, beautiful words. And lastly, so guys, I hope you really, really enjoyed this podcast. It was beautiful. A lot of value, a lot of gems. There's so much more we could talk about, but I don't want to like extend it even further, the podcast. We could do a part two in the future, 100%. But
Yes.
how about last thing? If people wanted to find you on social, your business on social, what social medias are you on, username for yourself, for your website, so they can find you. And I'll make sure, guys, to those listening to the podcast or watching it, I'll put it all in the description so you guys could also like follow Chava, her business. So where would they find you?
Yes, thank you for asking. So my personal and just like kind of my own little journey of my life is at Mililani Muscle. It's kind of spelled a little odd, but I'll spell it for you. So it's Mililani, then the word muscle. So Muscle. Mililani Muscle is my personal. And then my business is Lumen Photo Booths, and that's spelled Lumin Photo Booths. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook for both of those, for my business profile and my personal. And yeah, just give me a follow. I'm very supportive as well. I love supporting people's fitness journeys and just any of their other adventures as well. So I love following people and connecting with communities and building a network. So yeah, love to see you guys there.
Definitely go follow Chava. She's amazing. We connected through social as well, and she's definitely supportive. She's super awesome.
Yes.
So definitely give her a follow. She's amazing, and follow her business. If any of you guys are in that area where she's at in Colorado, etc., make sure to hit her up if there's any events or of anyone or anything of that sort. Support, and we're out here to grow. So with that, guys, this would conclude the episode of the G3X podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. It was great. And again, we'll put all the description of her information on the description. If you guys don't know about us, we're G3X Fitness, a clothing brand. So you can also check out our merch, etc. Appreciate everyone listening to the podcast. Feel free to give us a review or subscribe. We thank you everyone for listening and hope you guys enjoyed it. We appreciate you and have a good one. Peace out.